My phone lit up at 11:47 p.m. Exactly. Not 11:46, not 11:48, 11:47. In the dead quiet of my converted warehouse loft on the south side of Cleveland, the vibration rattled against my steel drafting table like a power drill hitting concrete. I stopped mid-stroke, my Apple Pencil frozen above the iPad screen, and stared at the caller ID. Dad, Sal. 2 words I hadn't seen in 4 years, 2 months and 9 days. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel fear. What I felt was something colder, sharper. The kind of curiosity you feel when you find a box in the attic labeled, "Do not open." I answered without saying hello. "Claire, listen." My father's voice was rushed, tight, the way it used to sound right before he blamed someone else. "We need you at the house tomorrow. 7:30 sharp. The bank is freezing accounts and Mark messed things up again. You need to sign off on your Aunt Evelyn's trust paperwork. Don't argue. Just be here." That was it. No, how are you? No, are you alive? No, we miss you. Just a demand. Like I was a printer he kept kicking because it wouldn't spit out the page he wanted. Before I tell you what I did next, pause for a second and tell me this in the comments. How many years would you go without speaking to your parents before you'd say the relationship was officially over? 1 year? 5? Forever? Drop your number below. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I tapped the red button and ended the call. The silence came rushing back, thick and heavy. But it wasn't the old silence. The kind that used to swallow me whole when I was a kid, sitting alone at the kitchen table in a house full of people who never noticed I was there. The silence felt tactical, like a chessboard after your opponent just sacrificed the wrong piece. I set the phone face down and took a breath. The loft smelled faintly of motor oil and old cardboard. A freight train groaned somewhere along the river. This place wasn't pretty, but it was mine. 1,200 square feet, concrete floors, space heater humming in the corner, rent paid on time. No one yelling. I wasn't 19 anymore, begging for scraps of approval. I was 26, managing inventory for a regional distribution hub that moved thousands of units a week. Forklifts, pallets, SKU codes, audits. My job was catching problems before they exploded. And my father's voice? That was the sound of a system already failing. I didn't open Google Maps to check the drive to my parents' place in Westlake. I opened my laptop. First stop, Cuyahoga County Public Records. Second tab, my encrypted financial dashboard, the same one I used for my side consulting work. And then, almost as an afterthought, I opened my password manager. The login for my aunt's trust account was still there. They'd never bothered to change it. They never thought I'd need it. When the portal loaded and the files appeared, statements, scanned documents, transaction logs, I felt a slow, unsettling calm spread through my chest. Something wasn't just wrong. Something was desperate. And desperation always leaves fingerprints. The files opened one by one, filling my screen with numbers, dates, neat rows of financial history stretching back years. I leaned back in my chair and took a sip of coffee from a chipped Dunkin' mug I'd grabbed for $1 at a thrift store on Lorraine Avenue. It was cold and bitter, but it did the job. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for patterns. At first glance, everything seemed normal. Monthly transfers, property tax payments, maintenance expenses for the house, lawn service, HVAC repairs, the kind of boring details families like mine relied on other people to handle quietly. Then I saw it. 3 withdrawal attempts in less than 60 days. 2 approved. 1 denied. The balance sat at $14,800. That made my eyebrows lift. My Aunt Evelyn had been obsessive about liquidity. She grew up during the Carter years, clipped coupons, kept emergency cash in envelopes labeled with a Sharpie. Her trust was structured to never dip below 6 figures. Ever. I scrolled back farther. My fingers slowed. Something else caught my attention. Not a transaction, but a document buried under years of PDFs. I clicked it open. Original deed of trust, filed 11 years ago. I almost skipped it. Almost. Instead, I read it. Line by line. The way I read freight contracts at work. No assumptions. No shortcuts. That's when I found the sentence my father hadn't mentioned. Not the release form. Not the signature block. A clause. Short. Quiet. The kind people ignore because they assume it'll never apply to them. It said that if the trust's primary managers failed to maintain a minimum balance, control transferred automatically to the youngest listed beneficiary once she passed a specific age. I checked the date again. I'd crossed that age last year. I refreshed the balance. Still under the threshold. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just felt something click into place. They weren't calling me because they wanted me back. They were calling me because, without realizing it, they'd lost control. And the scariest part? They didn't know it yet. Once you understand why someone is panicking, you stop reacting emotionally and start thinking strategically. I closed the trust document and stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen. Same brown eyes, same scar under my left eyebrow from when I tripped over a toolbox in my teens. But the girl who used to live in my parents' house wouldn't have recognized the woman sitting in that chair. Back then, my role was simple. Stay quiet, stay useful. Don't add to the noise. Psychologists have a term for kids like me now. I didn't know it then, but I've read enough since to recognize myself immediately. They call it the invisible child. Not abused, not neglected in obvious ways, just overlooked. Like a light fixture that only gets noticed when it stops working. My older brother, Mark, absorbed all the oxygen in the room. DUIs, suspensions. Boys will be boys, my dad used to say while paying another lawyer. My sister Danielle was the opposite kind of emergency. Dance competitions, college applications, constant reassurance. Everything about her life needed applause. I was the background noise. The one who remembered passwords. The one who refilled the printer paper. The one who knew where the spare keys were. The clearest memory I have isn't a fight. It's a Tuesday. I was 17, sitting at the kitchen island in our house in Westlake, doing calculus homework while the local news droned on about gas prices hitting $3.89 a gallon. My mom rushed past me for the third time, heels clicking, phone pressed to her ear. My dad stood by the fridge, arguing with Mark about money. Danielle was upstairs blasting music. No one noticed when I left for school. No one noticed when I came home. That night, I ate a frozen lean cuisine and went to bed. That was my childhood in a nutshell. No single dramatic wound. Just thousands of tiny cuts. The breaking point came on my 19th birthday. I'd come home from my shift at a grocery store. 6 hours on my feet, minimum wage, aching calves. I walked into the kitchen hoping, stupidly, for something different. Maybe a card, maybe a happy birthday. Instead, I found my parents hunched over paperwork. Mark had crashed another car. My dad didn't even look up. My mom sighed and asked if I could call the insurance company because she didn't have the patience today. That was the moment something in me shut off. Not anger, not sadness. Expectation. 2 months later, I left. I didn't make a speech. I didn't threaten. I packed a duffel bag with jeans, a hoodie, my laptop, and my social security card. I took $4,100 I'd saved from tutoring kids in AP math and slipped out at 5 in the morning. I expected chaos. Police calls, tearful voicemails. None came. 3 weeks passed before my mother texted to ask if I still knew the login for the Netflix account. That was the last time I replied. Now, years later, the same people were demanding my presence. By 7:15 a.m., my phone was vibrating nonstop on the drafting table. First came Danielle. She didn't call. She sent voice notes. She always did. "Claire, this is ridiculous," she said, her voice clipped and irritated. "Dad's freaking out. Mom hasn't stopped crying. You always do this thing where you disappear when things get hard. Just show up and be an adult for once." I played it again, slower this time. Interesting choice of words. Then my mom texted. A photo appeared on my screen. The front porch of the house. White columns, fresh mulch, the American flag hanging slightly crooked. "This is where you grew up," she wrote. "Your aunt wanted us all together. Please don't tear this family apart." And then Mark chimed in. Short message, no punctuation. "Dad says if you don't come sign the papers, he's calling the cops, says you took the spare keys when you left." I stared at that one for a long time. A threat. Thin but real. That's when another concept from my professional life clicked into place. Sunk cost. In logistics, it's the mistake companies make when they keep pouring money into a failing operation just because they've already invested so much. The smarter move is to cut losses, no matter how painful. Families do the same thing. I'd already given them 19 years of free labor. Emotional support. Silence. Compliance. That was my sunk cost. Going back now, signing anything, smoothing things over, would just mean investing more into something that had never paid dividends. I didn't respond. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and drove across town to a converted office near Detroit Avenue, where a friend of mine, Evan, rented space for his accounting practice. He wasn't a lawyer yet, but he had a knack for forensic numbers that made banks nervous. He pulled up the trust records on his dual monitors and frowned. "Did you notice this?" he asked. He highlighted a line dated February 12th. A wire transfer attempt. 38th of $500. Rejected. Destination, a holding company registered in the Cayman Islands. Why was it rejected? I asked. Evan clicked into the notes. Authentication failure. Signature mismatch. My stomach tightened. Not with fear, but recognition. He opened the scanned authorization form. At the bottom was my name. Perfect loops, correct spacing. Even the little flick I used to make on the C. Except I'd never signed it. They traced it, I said quietly. Evan nodded. Old handwriting samples. Probably from school forms. The bank flagged it because high-value trusts use pressure mapping now. Whoever signed this didn't match your biometric profile. Forgery, not a misunderstanding, not a paperwork error. A felony. The pieces snapped together with brutal clarity. The frantic call. The rushed demand. The insistence that I sign now. They weren't trying to fix a problem. They were trying to erase evidence. If I signed a retroactive release, it would look like I'd authorized the transfer. The bank's fraud review would stop cold. No investigation. No charges. My father wasn't afraid of losing money. He was afraid of losing his freedom. Don't go alone, Evan said carefully. And honestly, you don't need to go at all. I shook my head. I do, I said. Just not for the reason they think. That afternoon, I drove to Westlake. The gravel driveway crunched under my tires, loud and out of place. The fountain out front was dry, filled with leaves. From a distance, the house still looked impressive. Colonial style. White trim. Two-car garage. But I knew its weaknesses. The sagging floor near the guest room. The leaky roof. The unpaid contractor bills. I let myself in. They were all in the dining room, gathered around the long mahogany table like it was a board meeting. My dad stood when he saw me. "Claire," he said, forcing a smile. "You look strong." "I work," I replied. "Let's be quick." He slid a single page toward me. A pen rested on top. "Just a formality," he said. "Then we can put all this behind us." My mom clasped her hands. "We want to be a family again." I picked up the pen. Then I set it down. "No." The word hit the room like a dropped plate. Danielle scoffed. "Are you serious? I have plans." "I know about February," I said calmly. My father went pale. "The transfer," I continued. "The offshore account. The signature that didn't match." My mom gasped. "What is she talking about?" My dad stammered. "I was borrowing. I was going to replace it." "That's not borrowing," I said. "That's fraud." I slid a folder onto the table. "According to the trust," I went on, "any attempt to misuse funds removes the current managers. Control transfers to the successor." I met his eyes. "That's me." Silence swallowed the room. "This house," I said, standing straighter, "is collateral. I'm listing it next week. You have 30 days. My dad slammed his hand on the table. "You can't do this." "You taught me everything is a transaction," I said. "You wanted me to be useful." I turned toward the door as their voices rose behind me. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I left. By the time I reached the main road, my hands were steady. I wasn't angry. I was finished. I pulled over about a mile from the house, right past a Shell station, and shut off the engine. The ticking sound from the hood faded as the evening settled in. For the first time all day, everything was quiet. My phone buzzed. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails stacking up like unpaid bills. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I opened my contacts and started deleting names. Slowly, deliberately. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, out of clarity. You don't keep outdated files in a system you're trying to keep clean. Driving back to the city, I thought about something my aunt once told me when I was a kid. She said, "Integrity isn't about being nice. It's about being accurate." That stayed with me. What I did wasn't cruel. It was correct. They crossed a line. They tried to make me complicit. They assumed blood meant consent. It doesn't. Family isn't a lifetime contract where one side takes and the other side bleeds quietly. Back in my loft, I locked the door and sat at my desk as the sun dipped behind the skyline. The silence felt different now. Solid. Earned. Sometimes the most ethical thing you can do isn't forgiveness. It's refusing to sign your name to someone else's wrongdoing. If you've ever had to walk away to protect your integrity, share your thoughts below. Right and wrong aren't always emotional. They're structural. And once you see the cracks, you can't pretend the foundation is sound.